Roger Hilton is a Defence and Security Fellow at GlobeSec, a global think tank committed to enhancing security and sustainability. He joins us live from Vienna. Thank you for being with us. What do you make of the tension that seems to be building over the whole Kaliningrad issue?
Oh, to begin with, good evening, Lauren, and thank you for having me. I mean, based on the situation in Ukraine, this really shouldn't be a big surprise to anyone. Prior to going on air, as we heard earlier from the Lithuanian ministry, they've been preparing the situation for a long time. So, I mean, this is just in a reanimation phase of tensions between Lithuania and Russia. So I think what's about to come forward is not a big surprise for anybody in Vilnius, the Baltic states, or parts of NATO either.
How damaging, though, just explain to us how damaging it would be for Russia if this rail link is cut off in this way?
Well, I mean, I think to begin with, it's a temporary issue where they can still get the goods from St. Petersburg, from the Baltic. And as you pointed out at the beginning, even during the winter season, it's still possible. But it's a massive inconvenience in terms of having to circumvent the existing path. It's much more expensive. And obviously, there's a lot more going on when it comes to sort of the population and what they take from it. The video that's been coming out of Kaliningrad about the run on the supermarket, I mean, showing the panic and the fear going on, is the exact opposite of what President Putin was going for. So even if it's temporary, this is a sign that, Russia is not in complete control and that there are ramifications.
And Russia has warned of severe consequences. What do you think those might be?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about severe consequences, and the Baltic states have been living with the threat and the specter of severe consequences for a long time. Most people, depending on, most experts or military analysts, they've been looking at Kaliningrad and the Suwalki Gap for a while. But I take a different view on it, at least. I don't think Russia will start at the high end of the escalation ladder because it doesn't make any sense militarily if they were to go with the heavy option to begin with. Given the past experiences, it will probably be a mix of hybrid, of some cyber, and a surprise tactic that we're not aware about. I think increasingly what was demonstrated with Belarus and Poland with the refugee crisis, I think we can look to something like that. But what I want to point out for all the viewers is that one major lever that has been removed from Russia is the energy one, where, for a while now, since the conflict started, Lithuania has not had any imports of energy from Russia. And they already are getting 3 massive deliveries from LNG in their terminals from the United States, which allows them to be much freer in their decision-making.
Yeah, so I was wondering what lies behind Lithuania's sort of timing of the decision. I mean, do you think it is, they've said, we're just implementing the sanctions. Do you think that is all there is to it, or is there more behind the decision?
Well, I mean, listen, I think everybody in capitals, whether it's Vilnius, Tallinn, or Riga, I think they're taking every opportunity to try to give it to Russia. And this is just a great piece of work from Foreign Minister Landesberg about interpretation and really seeing a loophole that can he exploit. Even the High Rep Premier, Josep Borrell, he sort of said Lithuania was innocent, but they would have to double check. But in retrospect, this is just an example of Lithuania outsmarting Russia, which I think is, privately very humiliating for them, that a small vassal state from the past is now obstructing the movement of goods from their territory.
You say outsmarting Russia. Is there a danger, though, that this could end up being one of those moments of escalation, given that Lithuania is a member of NATO, and if there is any kind of retaliation against Lithuania, then it does become or would theoretically become a wider conflict?
Well, Lauren, haven't both you and I been living under this threat of escalation, since the beginning of the war? I remember sitting there and watching the meeting with Minister Shoigu and other members of the Russian National Security Council when he put the nuclear forces on high alert. And I think a lot of this is just a bit of a bluff. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to go militarily. Some of the options that are on the table, whether it's the option about going for the Suwalki Gap, the juice is not worth the squeeze. And I think that in the short term, at least, a lot of it is just bluster. And the most important thing that Russia needs to do now is consolidate their positions in Ukraine. They're having more than enough problems dealing with the Ukrainians in the Donbass, let alone unable to take some of the major capitals. So logically thinking, I'm not one to think that there's an imminent threat moving. While something is still serious and you need vigilance, I think it's more empty words, and he's playing a very weak hand at the moment.
Roger Hilton, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.